Welcome to Write Your Narrative, your weekly go-to Sweet Art podcast.
There's just so much culture and life in South Florida.
Art helped me find myself.
I can sit here and complain that Miami doesn't have any of these things, or I can find a way to do it.
This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
We have changed the conversation.
You're in the right place. Here we are.
It's happening.
So, yes, it's happening. So, who's with me tonight? I got my guest, Tony Firpi.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you for inviting me, my friend.
Well, you're welcome, buddy. I mean, it's I don't want to say it's overdue, but it's time. It's time
Overdue.
because we got to talk about all that shit happening in Wynwood that we know, things we like, the people we know.
We're breaking it right open, my friend. Right now, we're going to talk about the real stuff that's going on
Exactly,
in the real place.
exactly. Where we were just joking about Goop Master, who was
Right.
on your podcast.
Goop.
You had a podcast.
Goop Master.
Yeah. Come art me, bro.
Come on me, bro.
Yes.
It's like the come at me, bro, right? But like,
Yeah.
you know, with a little something in it.
But that's the thing about the podcast. That's what we were talking about a few minutes ago. I found out about your podcast, which I thought it was fantastic, just because I was doing some research about Carlos Solano, who we had on a podcast
Right.
a month ago.
Shout out to Carlos.
And then, well, there you are. So how do we do as a podcaster? What do we have to do to get ourselves out there?
You know, I don't know. Like, it's such a saturated, like, everybody has, like, the long guys that went by probably have a podcast about, you know, the grass cutting of, like, you know, and thatch and shit like that. So, like, everybody has had one, and I wanted to, like, do one in a way that I could just talk to my friends. I didn't necessarily, I'm not a guy that puts money into, like, ads and, like, does all this extra cost for marketing and stuff. I figured SEO takes care of, like, people searching for art stuff.
It does.
And my friends would usually just share it. But I don't get into things thinking that maybe it'll go popular or it'll go to the masses, right? Like I might just make something and sometimes I might not even release it. Like I have some podcasts that I had conversations that, like with some friends that I felt like, I don't know, like I just didn't even put it out. I just,
Okay, all right. Why? What happened?
I don't know. It's just,
It was like,
well, it's like, there's certain conversations, it's like, I want to make content to create traffic, right?
of course, we have to.
Right.
We have to.
But I also battle with, I know that the more I spend time creating content, the less time I have creating things to make money, right?
Yes, you mentioned that. You mentioned that in one of the podcasts. Yes, definitely. We're all running after the little money, trying to make things. But anyway, these podcasts, what you did, what a lot of people are doing, especially in a little community that we are down in Miami, in Wynwood, one way or another, we document what's going on. We keep track of what's going on. Thank you for the guy who's mowing the lawn. It's raining. Come on, dude, stop it. Anyway, those podcasts, like the magazine that I had for 2 years, it's still something relevant because we keep that community aspect with our artist friends, because those guys, the artists, but they became our friends. This is our family. This is our Wynwood, Miami family.
Our coworkers, right? Our water cooler mates that we can talk to at the street water cooler.
Exactly. And there's absolutely zero competition with us with doing all those.
I mean, with us, like you and I sitting, we have no competition.
Yes.
But there's a load of competition in Wynwood.
There is.
It's progressed and gotten to a point of different kinds of that type of influence, from the bigger type of, you know, competition, from bigger galleries and bigger, you know, like developers in that type of sense. I think it's had transitions and evolution into like different ways that the competition. Like, I remember showing up to Wynwood, and not to get off the question you were getting into about just, you know, the curation of like the documentation. I left Miami about 2012. Maybe 2008, I moved to Tampa.
All right.
I left with a girlfriend, decided to get out of Miami, decided to leave. Stayed there for a couple years, didn't like it. And at some point, I moved with a new girlfriend to Atlanta, right? Atlanta, Georgia. I lived there for several years after that. So I ended up staying there, doing things creatively, working at an agency, working on magazines and different types of stuff like that for big companies. I started my clothing thing while I was there. I started creating clothing from my photography while I was in Atlanta. And that was kind of the start of my clothing thing. I was already doing fashion photography. I was already doing creative photography, things like that, like graphic design and things like that. Ended up learning a lot in Tampa and in Atlanta, creatively, professionally, from graphic design to just like Photoshop and learning how to just use InDesign, things like that you can use at a job.
All right.
At some point, I came back about 2000 and I think 14.
14, yeah.
Kind of in the beginning peaks of like how Wynwood was starting to change into like it was already there. There was already graffiti. There was, when I got back from living in Atlanta, there was already a place that I visually as an artist and photographer, I saw right away from the highway, right? I knew, I saw, oh, shit, I need to go there. I need to go there and take pictures, right?
Exactly.
It's eye candy for any creative that
Totally.
And I don't care if there's crackheads and there's hookers on the street. I'm from Miami. Those are neighborhoods like I'm used to going to.
Well, you're a Miami guy.
I say what's up to people, right? I say what's up to people. You got to give them, as long as you feel confident in being in that area and say, then nobody gives a shit, right?
Yeah.
So I used to go there all the time to go shoot. I'd have model setups and I'd have a lot of different things there. I didn't really know artists and things that were going on in the area. At some point, I got back and I started talking to friends of mine, and I did my creative photography. I had my clothing stuff going on, Devious Elements, and I saw the potential in Wynwood to start talking with artists to start creating their own clothing. I wanted to help artists create their own full lines of like whatever they wanted to create.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mingle with artists and find out what was going on, like make friends. Like I want to be friends with people that are creating shit, right? Like I want to be in that.
Somehow I started the same way, doing photo shoot down in Wynwood because I wanted to do some pictures in front of some graffiti. I said, well, I don't know where any graffiti place in Miami. Anyway, we are both in Broward right now, so yes. And then when I went to Wynwood, I was just like mesmerized by the place and everything. I was just like, wow.
It's like the train tracks for every photographer, right?
It totally is. Totally is.
So, it
was.
Right. It was. Now it's not train tracks. It's speed rails and high rise. But, I got back to the area like you saw. Like you love to go there just to get a background that was urban, different, right?
Yes.
And really showed that.
This is a little neighborhood where you can actually park your car and walk around.
Right.
Walk around.
When there was parking.
Yes, when there was parking, free parking at the time.
Right.
But still, it's something you could walk around here in Broward or wherever you are. I mean, it's hard to drop your car and then walk around in half an hour, an hour. It's just like, okay, no, this is, you have like 5-6 blocks where you can go north, south, east, west, and then
you knew your perimeter, and you know what not to get into, and like what neighborhoods are not the best, right? The distance between where I remember going to Wynwood the first time, and there was somebody spray painting right on the police station, right? The police station was getting spray painted right in front, and I thought, holy shit, this is like really cool. Like what is going on over here? Like at that point there was not murals, but I mean, there was a lot of murals. Remember that I think the Star Wars mural that was there
was already there. Yeah.
It was already there for.
Oh wow, okay. The MSG.
Right. That big one with all
major murals.
So when I got there, Panther Coffee was already there. They had several different spots. Yeah. So I had gotten in there in a way that like it was sort of established that artists already knew what was going on. I ended up meeting an artist named Golden 305 in Hialeah.
Yeah, right? He's the
Shout
homie.
out to Golden, right?
He's the homie, definitely.
Going over 12, 13 years now. And I met him at a gas station in Hialeah. I heard this dude behind me. Hey, what's up, baby? What's up? I like your T-shirt. It was a Hialeah T-shirt, right? I had one of my first brands was called Hialeah Raised. I'm originally from Hialeah, Florida.
Yeah.
And so like that was one of the things that I started with. Golden was behind me at the gas station. I'm buying cafecito, like I'm buying Cuban coffee and some croquetas, and he's like, yo, I love your shirt. And I look at him He's just this big dude with a bucket hat on, with a big voice, and he has a Hialeah shirt on too. He had made this Hialeah shirt. And I'm like, look at this dude. I'm like, I'm already friends with this dude. So I'm very social. Like I'll create conversation with whoever, like it doesn't really make a difference. And Golden started talking to me and, oh, what's up? And oh, I do paint and do this. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm just coming back. I'm from here. I'm looking for artists to collaborate with to see if they want to do something. And it's like, you can either get one of two answers when you ask an artist that now, right? If I was to do that to anybody and they didn't have any idea who I was or what they would get in return or anything like that, the first two questions would be, who are you? Or what are you going to give me back or something like that,
I can see that, yep.
Before, it was very organically, you didn't have to need to, there wasn't all these like social experiments going on with social media. And
no, not as much for sure.
And then it was just so much easier to go, who's this random person? They don't have any social media following. They invited me over to Wynwood to come and hang out. I found an opening to go, you know what? I can go shoot some video with an artist, with this guy that's going to show me around. And he did. He drove me around, showed me all these murals and showed me what was going on. It was a whole nother world to be able to just, if you know Golden, then Golden is like this guy that like used to help all the artists, right? Golden was the guy that before he did all the big murals and did all this stuff, he would just assist a lot of people. And he was an incredible artist. But when I shot the video with him, there was nobody around. There was just him doing that big Wynwood mural that literally said Wynwood. You have the
yes.
t-shirt.
Oh, yes.
From back in the day. And that was like, and I remember him doing that by himself on that wall and just us just there all day shooting. And he just knocking it out. Mauda came by and his kids came by to like help him out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, that was a time where there wasn't a big fanfare for like that type of stuff, right? Unless you were the big or bigger name people that had more of that following, right?
Yeah.
But going back to the beginnings of Wynwood, or me kind of getting back into like me developing into what I'm doing now, is Golden would show me around. I'd shot video. He'd introduce me to a whole bunch of different people and photographers. I think on that same day I saw he introduced me to Sandro.
Sandro, yes.
Right. He was on the street shooting already.
My
right.
biggest introduction to Wynwood, Sandro, yes.
He definitely has been a staple in street photography.
Absolutely.
And like, so I right off the bat, you get an introduction of people that right now are like yourself that have a stock in that area, have documented and like will be the documentarians in the future to have all this information to be able to produce for everybody, right?
That's what I say. It's the purpose of that podcast.
Totally.
It's just to talk about all.
Totally. And going there, introducing me when there was no, there was no corporate stuff. There was no, like, it was just street people painting. He introduced me to Ruben Ubiera, that mofo. And he was doing a mural for Art Basel, and he was like, come down and hang out.
Real people.
Right.
They are real people. And this is what the people we encounter in that art community in Wynwood, they are just real people.
Totally.
They are just, and most of them, even the people who come during Art Basel who have maybe bigger names, they're still really down to earth.
Totally.
You can approach them. I think actually twice, I had some people looking down on me, say, well, who you are, taking pictures and everything, whatever. But then this was one of the graffiti crew from Chicago, I believe, I think so. So anyway, well, that's another thing.
Right. But yeah, there is that territorial,
there is that territorial thing, and they don't want to be showing their faces, which we both respect totally. I mean,
even doing photography, at one point when you go to where there's established artists and there's already photographers taking pictures and they already know these people.
Like Martha Cooper.
It's funny. I've had to it's like the surfing world, right? You have to work your way in and kind of be like, nobody's going to come and beat you up or nothing like that. That's not how it is, right? Because people are like that. But they will look at you like shit and look at you like, who the fuck is this dude taking pictures on my area with these artists that I know? Which that's what I experienced a little of in the beginning. I kind of stepped away from that
the other photographers, yes.
Yeah.
Stepping on my.
Yeah. and I'm not gonna say anything. I mean, everybody is how they are, and I love the photographers in South Florida. all these guys have a camaraderie, and it's not to talk shit to anybody.
No, I think there's a good group of people.
Totally. Looking at how that area was to be able to, I know that there's a certain sensitivity to meet people where there's already been people around there already, right? Like artists already have their friends and their people that they go to, and they're like, example, 2016 when Ruben Ubiera was doing this big yellow wall with the two people with the telephone lines on their heads for Art Basel. That was like one of the best Art Basels, I think, from all the other Art Basels, just because there was so many people on the street just congregated, hanging out with each other, right? Yes. Golden brings out his grill and he starts grilling, and everybody starts talking. And
my gosh, yes, Golden and his grill and
everybody could come around. Anybody of everybody can come around, and you don't have to be rich. You don't have to have like any status. You could just walk up and be the I don't know, the king of Africa. I don't know, somehow, and nobody would know. They would just go, "Yo, nice to meet you. You want a hot dog?"
Oh, exactly.
All right. You want a sandwich? Do you want to check out? Oh, this dude's painting. Oh, this is Urban Ruben, and everybody would kind of like network in that way. And that year I met Goop Master Angel. I met like Anthony Hernandez. It was like all the local dudes that you can just sit and go. You know me, so you see me during Art Basel, I usually have what with me? A cart.
Yep.
I have a cart.
You do, yes.
Always have my cart with. People even make fun of me. Why you got a cart? Why you got a cart? Why? Because I go to Art Basel, I get dropped off on the street with an Uber. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know who I'm going to talk to. I just know that I will find somebody and I will have an encounter. You just know 2 minutes into being on the street, Claudia LaBianca is driving by on a golf cart waving hi, call me bitch. Golden's saying, "What's up, baby? Where you going?" There's people. I see you every time I go down there.
Definitely.
So going to this area, you there's no way to not like meet these people, right? And when you get to meet them, I don't hold these like big. I don't put people on pedestals, right? I'm not this guy that goes, "Oh my gosh, this artist is so awesome. I'm going to shake his cans for him and help him out."
Yeah.
I can give a shit about who you are and your status. If you're cool to me and I could be cool and we can vibe like that, man, you made a friend forever.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're an artist, then shit, I can respect your work. I'll help. I'll share your work. I see what your vibe is. When you're kind of like, I've had artists know me and then see me for Art Basel and be hanging out with all the uppity artists and walk by me like they don't even know me.
Really?
Totally. But that's how it happens.
Well, we got people like this.
Right.
Well,
right.
This is the world. That is the world. I mean, this is yes.
And I try not to take offense by that type of thing because that's how it is. But that is how it is, right? So sometimes when you're in that world, going back to like the initiation for Winwood and during the Art Basel, is that I saw a world of artists that hung out with each other, just hung out and painted and talk shit, grilled food. They had this like open invite thing that was going on during that time. Remember all the parties that were going on? That like Golden had this party at it was for Meeting of Styles, I think.
Meeting of Styles,
right?
yes.
And Shepard Fairey came and popped his head in all of a sudden, like for that little thing that he was having in the back with I forgot what it was. It was a lot of stuff going on. But
yeah, that was yes.
You never know. Like at some point, like you can run into artists that are world known artists.
Absolutely.
And communicate, ask them questions, talk to them just like a coworker, right?
True.
And so that was the atmosphere that I loved about Winwood, that when you went back and you saw somebody that you knew, you didn't even have to know their name. You're going to go over them, say what's up to them. Hey, how you doing? Hey, what's been going on? See how their art's going. And I think that built more of a community, I think, like for artists to be able to just do that. Now that did come with some caveats that happen,
of course,
right?
Of
that
course.
Within that perimeter, when it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that group just gets larger and larger, it starts losing its authenticity, right? At some point, loses its.
Some point.
When you're playing telephone with so many different artists and getting your circle larger and larger, it tends to I kind of have a small circle of artist friends that I
so do I.
usually communicate with.
So do I, yes.
But I do have acquaintances that I know from artists that I'll say what's up to anywhere in the world, right?
Yeah.
I'll always give them love. But yeah, it is kind of we all kind of have our little pockets of.
We totally do.
Of little people that we kind of like stick to and things like that, which is understandable. Artists we find our groups of friends and we kind of stick to them, but we're very universally adaptable to anybody.
We are. We are. And that's what, for the people who don't know what Art Basel is, I mean, this is our yearly family reunion down in it totally is. We got people from all around the world coming from these art fairs and everything, all the galleries. So it's early December. We got from Findak, who comes from England. We got everybody who comes in town. This is a big family reunion.
Yeah, dude,
big family reunion.
I have clients that I work with in Wynwood that don't even see me till Art Basel, right? So like they'll see me on a video call the whole year.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm in person. They're looking at me like, holy shit.
So anyway, just to talk about all these people that you that we know and these friends and everything. So you kind of build that brand, that Devious Elements Apparel brand, around with some artists. You did the podcast, but this is something actually quite old, because I want to refer to maybe the Keith Haring pop-up show that he did in Soho in 1986, where artists were already building a brand with clothing, with all those things. So this is, history repeats itself.
Yeah.
So this is what you're doing. This is what I did with some T-shirts that I had also. So it's kind of cool to continue this and keep the work with the local people. Really root for the local people. That's what I was doing with the magazine.
Yeah, I Devious Elements, as it came from the whole photography aspect and doing fashion and stuff, going on to clothing and transferring to more of a tangible something for me to sell. It turned into something that can be applicable for any piece of art for me. I could put it on any type of thing.
True.
I started off very small to be able to do T-shirts. I was doing silk screening and things like that.
Well, thank you to drop shipping.
And thank you, drop shipping.
Absolutely.
I was able to do that at some point and grow into that. And then now I've gotten into using my resources to get more of a cut and sew manufacturers that I've been using to do more to the detailed of the product that I need. And for the clients, I was very big on the collaborations back before the pandemic.
Yeah.
The pandemic kind of hurt me in a way that, like, not hurt me in financially, because people were still shopping more so online, right?
Yeah.
I thrived during the pandemic.
You did?
Yeah, I was doing great. People were doing, a lot of people were doing good, but I was trying to do more collaborations. We like the podcast to also get out artist names and try to help them with promotion. And that helped with that type of thing. But at some point, I stopped bringing in artists to collaborate with. I was only working with artists that I was friends with. Like, and I'm not just saying like, hey dude, what's up, friends? I'm saying like artists that I can call financially about, like artists that I can confide in, like that I would speak to on a normal basis. Same thing with Carlos Golden, Lisa Diakova. I worked with one of my first artists.
Pixel.
Right.
Pixel
Pancho. I just talked to Pixel a couple days ago, and he's in Italy, and we're talking about polenta and a whole bunch of farming shit. But like the relationships that I build between the people I work with are usually people that I can grow with over time and not just have a quick buck off of. So the people that I have on my website now that I have the collaborations with, they're lifelong friends. They're people who I will ongoingly work with and help them with their clothing. For my ongoing, when I'm doing more of this time around is working more for the wholesale portion of it. And I've been helping artists, companies, clients of mine build their own brands and find product that could be anything. It could be a custom skateboard. It could be little mini fans with a logo on it, right?
Well, you're a creative, so you
anything, right? All
kinds of aspect in that field, which is so huge. I mean, you can try to sell anything.
And I've tried to go into it in a way that, like, I'm not necessarily pushing the artist collaborations are great, and it helped me to work with new people, help me to get new product that was different and fun, help get other artists out there on my brand. At some point I started drawing away from that to help them in the background more so, just because I was doing a lot. Like the time it took to create, develop, concept, manufacture, photograph, social media, it was taking me more so away from my own stuff. And a lot of people don't know, but like at some point when I was in the photography field and I was doing like creative stuff, a lot of people didn't know that I actually could draw, right? Like I can actually use my hands to create things.
Yes, you're an artist too.
and when I started developing my own designs and like started doing more of that, so I was able to spend more time focusing on those certain things, because unfortunately our fans and the people that follow us typically follow you more, the person that they're following. Their subject is you, right? So as I grow, I try to develop new things to not just create new stuff, but also because I got to get paid at some point at the end of the day, right? I gotta pay my bills. So at some point,
all have to. Yep.
I had to develop more things. That's the reason why I stopped doing the podcast, because I wanted to develop more things that would create in the background to help my brand grow. Which, having to have the load of clothing and going outside and shooting product and like having to develop all these things, it really does take a lot out of me.
It does. Out of everybody. Right. I mean, this is work. And if you don't put the work into anything you do in life, well, how successful can you be?
Right. So now that's what I'm doing. I'm getting back more into the business developing side of it, more of the bigger clients, more payoff with with more scaling for my company for what I'm trying to do for the future of Devious Elements. I still want to work with artists, which I constantly get artists messaging me to work with them, and I'm constantly turning them down.
Oh yeah,
just because of I know my focus, right? I know where I want to get with the company, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with clothing or anything like that. Yeah. I'm actually working right now with another company that that you work with, that I'm going to start having locations in Woodwood with retail spots for Devious Elements Apparel.
Oh,
exclusively working with these locations to do that. So I have projects that I'm working on right now like that are collaborative, but I can be more in charge of, I guess.
All right.
More developing my, more to focus on the return. I mean, to be honest.
Well, at the end of the day, hey, we got bills. We all got bills.
I mean, I love to be in the artist side of what I do.
No, but that's.
But I'm also a business person. I also need to figure out how to scale a business. So I think what a lot of artists do now, and let's say like in Miami, is they want to be famous off of like their art, but they don't want to like multitask, right? They don't want to, merchandise. They don't want to create things that they can have to be able to make more money in the background. It's an unknown thing, right?
It's an unknown thing. Right. That's what I said. They just don't know.
They don't know.
And they're afraid that you might be stealing their ideas sometimes.
Right.
So it's like, okay, they want to give you, but not give you too much love. It's a
hard line. It's a
hard line,
and I don't blame them. There's Miami is full of these people who do this type of thing, right?
Miami can be a little sketchy, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, we all know living in South Florida, like even somebody knocks on your door right now, you're gonna be like, who the fuck is at my door, right?
Exactly.
Right. So like that type of vibe is like trustworthy business, which people I still work with, but thinking more scalable for me as a business person. Like somebody says, why do you have other artwork on your website that isn't yours specifically? Well, because I want to be more like Amazon than, Obey, right?
All right.
I'd like to sell more product and have a bigger business than just do, the little capsules of things right away to, like those are cool and all to do for social media. But in the long term, they're not selling a larger scale of what I'm looking to do.
Yeah, well, this was definitely one of the questions I had about becoming a brand, but that definitely, that's what we talked about.
Totally.
Yeah. So, and then you make a comment. I was listening to a podcast when you talked about Ruben, and you say when he was asking you about some design, and you told him that he was all over the place, and it's not the answer that he was expecting from you. It comes down to one thing, being honest with the people, just being straightforward, not trying to brush everybody, just like, okay, wow, you're beautiful. And this is something that I really, really appreciate.
I think you do that too. I think you're able to come out and say something and tell somebody something in a way that like, you're not putting them down, right?
No, of course not.
Creative criticism, right?
Exactly.
Like, the thing with Ruben is, I think Ruben and I clicked in a way, and became more friends at that point when I was able to kind of be very honest with him. And he told me at some point, I'm very, very honest with that situation. And he was like, dude, I remember, like, this is like 6 years later. Oh, dude, do you remember when you told me that thing that one time and you were very honest? Like, that stuck with him to be honest like that. So I don't want to blow smoke up people's asses, like, because I don't want it to happen to me, right?
No, it goes nowhere.
Totally. Tell me what I'm doing and I'm doing wrong. Maybe it's my generation. I don't know. I'm 42 now.
Yeah. I'm only 20 years older than you. Oops.
We both look young.
It's my generation too. They're just like,
it's just honest, right? I just rather tell you.
Just being honest. Doing, and then not just talking about shit.
Right.
Like, yeah, there's no need for that.
Like, oh, how does this look? Oh, that looks so good. You should put that up. And no, if it doesn't look good, be honest with somebody.
And then you turn around and say, well, I would never put this on my wall. Like,
I think that honesty has translated into my art friendships, because I don't like to, I think that shows a sense of insecurity, right? And insincerity.
It does.
Because people don't want to be honest with you because they're used to just going, oh, awesome. And here, take a picture of me for social media. And then you're like, oh, this guy sucks, right? Like, but that's a lot of Miami, you know.
And there's quite a few suck.
Right. I mean, having authenticity, I think, is what have built some of my best friendships here in South Florida. And just being able to just, even for you, I think, I remember at some point when you were working with some other artists that you were collaborating with, and we had some crossover, right, of some artists.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
People that we had, and you came up to me and you go, hey man, I'm working with this artist. I just want to make sure that it's
that
cool.
was Carlos, actually,
right,
at the time.
Right.
Yes.
I don't want to say anything.
No. That's because of
but it's honest.
T-shirt
right.
line at some point.
And then,
it's just okay. That didn't happen.
And then what did I tell you?
Well, this is fine. Yeah, absolutely. And they said you were totally cool with that idea. I had that idea to do some T-shirts, so I was looking at different things. And then, yes, you say we run into each other once a year.
And it's not like
twice a year, maybe at some gallery.
And you don't have to ask, right? You don't have to ask. I don't even think, like, I like the fact that you did do that, not because you need my approval. I don't need any consent. Like, you or whoever you want to work, but I like that people that I'm still cool with now have that type of respect, right?
Respecting things.
It is an integrity thing. It's like, hey man, totally. I don't want to do something with somebody to step on your toes if you were like that, right? And that honesty to me was, man, Pascal's like he's nice. He's a real dude, man. Like
yes. All right.
I did want to add something to like my story that I don't think I've said before. A friend of mine had given me a point and shoot camera, a little point and shoot camera, and he, my best friend Alex Herrera, he showed me how to use a camera. He would always do creative work for me. He loved Photoshop at the time, so I started taking pictures of my friends. They'd come over, hang out. We would, like, I don't know, smoke some weed, and I would just take their pictures or something like that. Do portraits and things. I started taking my friends' other group shots. It started becoming like a creative thing to me to do that. At some point, it became, all right, like, what do I do with this? So I can make something of this. My best friend Alex was editing my photos. He sent them back to me all twisted up and different and cool looking, you know, like just Photoshop.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so cool. And at some point I thought, you know what? I need to learn how to do Photoshop because I need to do this myself, right?
Exactly.
And so at that time, I spent time learning how to use Photoshop. I watched tutorials. I learned how to do it through YouTube videos. I ended up moving to Tampa not too long after that.
Time, yes.
And I found a job at Auto Trader magazines. You had magazines, and every mailbox, they did all the you know, Deals on Wheels and the Trader books that had all the cars locally that they would sell.
All right.
At some point I was in sales. I was doing sales for the magazines. I was just happy to have a job, right? And it turned into the magazines ended up becoming more of a editorial style magazine. They became Auto Trader Classics car magazines, and they actually did editorials on the cars. They did like full spreads, like a real car magazine. They had models on the cover for like the pinup magazine, for like the hot rod magazine, things like that.
All right.
At the time, my boss told me, we know you do photography. Would you want to be the photographer for Auto Trader? This was in St. Pete, because I was living in Tampa, but I had to drive to St. Pete. And at some point, I became the photographer for Auto Trader Classics. They would send me to different car shows. I went around the country going to Mustang shows and just different shows. And I had a business card, and I go to people on the Auto Trader Classics. It was the coolest thing because
I know
it was even if I was taking pictures with a car, because they used to give me cars, pre-production cars. I'd go home with for the weekend. I'd shoot it and bring it back. the craziest thing that they did for me to do that. I was like, I would get these cars and I would be like, I remember driving across the bridge in St. Pete, and they gave me this brand new Challenger. It was when the Challengers came out and the new bodies, and that car was so fast that I remember driving 60 on the bridge, and I pressed the gas, and the tires just spin while I was driving this car. Like that's how powerful this car is. Well, I don't know why they gave me this. Anyways, but that was one of the funnest jobs I've ever had. At that job, they wanted at some point to have me do layout work for the magazines as well. So they said, hey, learn, can you do InDesign? And I'm like, sure, I know how to do InDesign. And I didn't know how to do InDesign. Oh, I barely knew how to traditionally use
on the fly.
Right.
We go up.
Right. I can learn it. And that week I learned how to use InDesign. I sat videos and I watched enough to like pretend like I knew what I was doing. And that turned into my experience. Like I learned InDesign on the job. And I got really good at it. And I did more seminars and I did more webinar things in classes. They used to send me to like different like Photoshop World and things like that. And I learned how to use Photoshop, and I became their head designer as well. I was doing all the layout work with a team of people that did all the typography for the car, setups for the features. And I would edit my own photos from the photos that had been on the road with. So it was a really great experience. At the time in Tampa too, I was into a lot of fashion photography. So I was taking a lot of pictures of models still and trying to work that into, that was like what I did. And then my car stuff was like what my job was.
All right.
At some point, they did away with those magazines, and Autotrader.com took on all those magazines. They did away with everybody in that office, and they took it all to Atlanta. Now, at the time, my soon-to-be wife was working at Autotrader, and she got invited. She was
working there too. Okay.
Right. She got invited to move to Atlanta, and which I ended up moving to Atlanta at the time. We actually got together, but it's crazy how just things can just become from one thing. And now I have a clothing company. I do my own photography. I work with some incredible clients.
Because all these models with the cars, they were not dressed enough. You're going to get a call.
But it's
a t-shirt for you.
It's so crazy that it turns into like something, like all these little moments, right? Go full circle into like, I knew photography. I knew design at some point. So when I did it for myself, I can do everything in-house. I can go do concepts. I can shoot the product. I can go network to the people. And at some point, all my experience kind of culminated into this like bucket of things that I know how to do this. I can do this. And now I'm learning new things all the time.
Oh, yes.
But it's crazy how that all comes back to you, right?
With
like
AI and everything. It's just like, okay, where are we going with this?
I'm learning that too now, because it's inevitable, right? Like it's something that you're going to have to learn. I see clothing lines right now creating whole lines with AI prompts, and they don't have to leave their computer. I mean, you can create a whole line, create a lookbook, concepts, do a whole breakdown of each product, and then create the designs for you separated and then do the marketing. You don't even have to leave your computer to do all these things that we were basically, we were our own staffed,
Yeah,
Things are changing, but I'm glad things are changing in a way that we can start figuring things out new.
So anyway, Tony, thank you so much for that time. I'm so glad that we share all these friends that we have in common things. It's just like it's definitely, and the work that you put on promoting and helping the community and building a business for yourself. I mean, this is
thank you.
This is cool.
Thanks, man.
All right.
I appreciate what you do too, man. You really put you're going to be the reference to almost everything Wynwood come 20 years from now, 50 years from now, when somebody needs to look up information about Wynwood. You especially are one of the people that are documenting it in a way.
Well, you mentioned Sandro. He's done an incredible job too, and so many others, so a few other people. And
I put you guys in the same realm of like, people who are going to be able to, and I don't even think about it either. Like people are like, oh man, you can go back to your videos and things. And I think that would be cool 50 years from now.
Are you kidding me? Your videos, when you see, well, let's go back again. Golden grilling and everything. It's like, wow, this is so fun, because this is true.
Right.
This is the true story of Wynwood, of Miami.
Right. And I miss the old, but I'm happy with what's the new to come, I think.
Once again, thank you, Tony, for that time that we spent together. I hope a lot of people are going to follow us, reach out to you. All right. This is how we finish the podcast. All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks again. Well, thank you all for listening to Write Your Narrative. Please follow us and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite streaming platform. See you next week.